you speak about this massively transformational purpose, and a lot of us might be navigating the changes going like, oh, okay, my position's been made redundant, maybe I want to go and be an entrepreneur, or I need to start selling my own product or services. And it seems like a lot of us are trying to do the same thing at a small scale, and you speak about how this is the wrong way of going about it because that gets pretty replaced quite fast. So how do I start applying at least the mindset of thinking whatever it is that I'm doing, even if I'm just getting started, I should really start with MTP? And what does that process look like?
Okay. So if you look at our history over the last few generations, right? All of our education and training and getting a job was all supply side driven. You picked a vocation, you were an accountant, you were a business manager, you were a software developer, you were a medical doctor, and then you would go to the job market and try and sell those skills and earn a living, okay? With sales, whatever. And it was supply side. You'd acquire a set of skills, try and sell it in the job marketplace. We're seeing this massive flip now to the demand side, okay? Where the successful people are going to go, what problem do I want to solve? And then I'm going to go acquire the tools and skills and capabilities I need to solve that problem. And the MTP is, what fundamental problem do I want to solve? So for Elon, he's like, I want to take humanity multiplanetary. I want to solve energy, and I want to solve, neural connections or whatever it is. He has an MTP for each company. And what basic big problem do you want to go after? If you have a big problem, let's say it's curing cancer, right? Then it's easy to form a community around that problem. Then it's easy to recruit from that community and find a breakthrough idea. And so we've got a whole methodology in the book. How do you build a 10x organization? I want to just point out one little data point about what we've uncovered of EXOs over the 10 years that we've gone from first edition to second edition. When we wrote the book, we scored 200 unicorns against how are they scaling so quickly, and that teased out the model that we now call exponential organizations. 5 external attributes like leveraging community, leveraging algorithms, leveraging other people's assets, community and crowd, etc. And 5 internal mechanisms like using lean startup thinking, decentralized decision-making, real-time dashboards, etc. Because that's all in the model. We then scored the Fortune 100 against this model, right? So we actually came up with a ranking on how purpose-driven is IBM, or how much does GE use lean startup thinking or not. And I did a segment on CNBC Squawk Box, a big financial program, presenting the index of the Fortune 100 ranked by how flexible, agile, adaptable to their org structures. We just did a 7-year trailing analysis of that model. It said, okay, how did they do over 7 years? And over a 7-year period, we took the top 10 most EXO-friendly and the bottom 10 least EXO-friendly, i.e. the least flexible, least adaptable, in our opinion. Okay. And how did they do over 7 years? Okay. The top 10 beat the bottom 10 by like 3x on revenue, 6x on profitability, 11 times, by the way, not percent, times, right? 6 times on profit, 11 times on return on equity, but shareholder returns, market cap, 40x.
Oh my.
Okay, so let me just repeat that, right? Over a 7-year period, the most flexible and agile big companies in the Fortune 100 compared to the least flexible, least agile delivered 40 times better shareholder returns. Why? Because as the external world becomes more agile, your ability to adapt is going to drive market value. And if you're doing, say, sales, you have to be able to adapt very quickly to new things, new situations, right? If you're in the sales world, you're using ChatGPT to say, what's the most effective email head subject line I can do today? We have clear evidence that if you use ChatGPT, your email response rate goes up 25%, something like that. That's amazing, right? So there's all these tools available, but you have to bring the mindset to it and just go after it. And just because now you can be 10x bigger than you were 5 years ago.
Do you see the application of MTP, massively transformational purpose, at a scale for your community? Or is this only something you have to look at like a global scale for everything?
No, it can be just for a community. Take Dollar Shave Club, right? He basically went, shaving should be about $1 a month for everybody. Boom, that's his MTP. It can be transformational just for your business. It could be, we worked with the mayor of Miami a few years ago, and a lot of the buzz around Miami is because we transformed how public sector thought about it. And the buzz around that was, hey, how can we turn Miami into the most important city in the world, right? And be forward thinking on tech. So my mayor's like, I'm accepting Bitcoin as salary, and we're going to be totally crypto friendly, et cetera, et cetera. Not things you typically hear from an 80-year-old fuddy-duddy mayor in some town. And so that's fantastic, right? That inspires all the younger generation.
Well, I know you're building a whole community of people that think exponentially, and there's going to be a link in the show note for those of you who like this kind of thinking, want to see some massive changes in the world. I highly suggest you go and create an account, create your profile, because there's this huge community being built on exponential thinkers. And yes, there are still a lot of problems in the world that need to be solved, and we need people to take bolder action and have bolder statements on what they do want to solve in the world. And I think this community is going to be a powerful vehicle to do that. So Salim, love the influence you're doing there. I have to ask something that's very sales related, given that you're on your Sailing with Love podcast, is if I was going to ask you and I had a chance to ask, hey, where do you see the role of a salesperson in like 5-10 years from now? And maybe some of the things we could do now to be better equipped to navigate that. Would you have some specific things to give to people in that profession, aside from the Chat GPT, of course?
Yeah, absolutely huge. The reason, the massive opportunity and actually obligation, when you're in sales, you're trying to make a connection with the potential purchaser and using some sort of narrative structure to get a major point across on why your product or service is the one they should acquire, right? When we have an explosion of new ideas, new breakthroughs, new technologies coming to market, the sales function becomes even more important because you can add so much more value to the world by getting them to use a new tool that's 10x better than they could have used before. Because most of the new products and services that we'll be selling into the future will be 10x better than 5 years ago. And it's super important. The value you can add to your end client becomes 10x higher, right? Now that makes it slightly easier to sell, but more important because if you're in sales, the real mantra that's driving you is how can I add the most value to the other side? That's why I love your podcast, right? It's Selling with Love. This is another piece where the MTP is powerful because it creates an emotional connection. You have an emotional connection for that problem. Say it's curing cancer. Like, I want to solve that problem. And that gets you that drive across. And when you're selling or in sales, the more emotion you can bring to the table, the more empathy you generate, the more listening you generate. And that's what's going to be possible. Like, I can show up now to somebody, because I'm an advisor to a healthcare company that solved breast cancer, and say to a hospital system, we can solve breast cancer in your city, in your hospital, in your country. Let's go, right? And because I have the passion for it and the technology so there, I just have to bridge that narrative to get them to understand it. And then it's an easy conversation from that.